everybody. My last video got interrupted because it finished the film on my camera, so I'm gonna pick up. Again, please wear your masks. So I'll pick up where I left off and finish this one up. Entitlement is fun while it lasts. You live in a fantasy in which the world owes you more than you contribute. You can feel entitled to a flat screen TV without earning the money to pay for it. You can park in the handicap space because you are in a rush. You can graduate from college and expect to get a fulfilling job with a six-figure salary right away. That's what everybody thinks nowadays in Washington. That's what Washington is about. Providing jobs in the think tanks and up on Capitol Hill and the White House and everywhere in the cesspool to give six-figure salaries to all of these people. If I were on the Titanic, I would deserve to be on the first lifeboat. And I honestly feel I'm just more deserving than others. The students who scored the highest on entitlement took the most candy, not really caring that this would leave less for the children. Historically, entitlement meant having a social position or a claim to ownership granted by some legitimate authority. Having a title or being entitled meant having a clear claim to a social rank or piece of property, such as being a lord or duke in the British society. Well, nowadays our PhDs and MBAs are the new lords and ladies and everything like that. But once again, this gets back to the founding fathers and, what good governing is about and the ruling elite. I don't care if it's lord or lady or an MBA and PhD, you still have an obligation to serve the people. And not just your own pocketbooks and your own, hedonistic pleasures. There's some overlap with the historical definition. An entitled person acts like he's royalty and isn't like everyone else. Again, there will always be, a ruling elite. Either they're smarter academically and in theories and everything like that, which, my lord, how many PhDs and MBAs do we have in Washington that never graduated from kindergarten? They don't understand anything that they're talking about. Part of the problem, we'll see later on with Dr. Spock and early childhood development, is they're not attaining the cognitive skills, from early childhood and then all the way up into even secondary education. And that's something that needs to be developed. And so, it's just memorize the test, get an A, and then you get into an Ivy League school. And, particularly if you're a minority, well, you get grants and all sorts of favoritism. And here's the result. This gets into my affirmative action. I've changed a little bit here. I've gone through the different presentations I've done. Entitlement on campus. I need an A in this course. As I was saying, is it an A or an entitlement rather than something to be earned? When I was in school, if I didn't get an A, or if I didn't, if I got a grade that I deserved, and sometimes it was a C, it wouldn't be usually more or less than a C. It was because I deserved it. And if I got an A and I didn't get it, I'd be like, well, why didn't I get this? I never would go because I want this grade. No, I deserved it, so I should get it. That's all I've ever asked of anybody in this world. Others expect to get good grades just for paying tuition. This is why we have so many parents, like which Hollywood actress, I forget what her name is, the blonde, who's going to jail and all. It's coming out, those scandals. Even telling faculty members, you work for me. Aren't you professors getting a little tired of this? The most entitled have decided that they get good grades by arguing, saying things like, "I'm not leaving your office until you change my grade to an A." I don't know about you guys, but if that was a student of mine, I'd be like, if you don't get out of here right now, you're going to get an F. And I'll see your parents. God. A survey of college students published in 2008 confirmed these perceptions. 2/3 of students believe their professors should give them special consideration if they explain they were trying hard. Apparently missing the point that grades are given for performance, not just for trying. Explained this to Christine Lagarde and everybody over the IMF and everybody in Washington. They're rah rah rah. We're trying, like the little engine that could. We're trying, but we're not getting anywhere. We're spinning our wheels. 1/3 believed they deserved at least a B just for attending class. And is it any wonder that our standards of education is going down so much? And perhaps most incredible, 1/3 thought they should be able to reschedule their final exam if it interfered with their vacation plans. I mean, my Lord. Really, don't you professors get tired? Jean's favorite was a student who asked for an extra credit assignment 2 weeks after the end of the semester. His email address was famous stars, and he used the subject line, please read ASAP. Of course, professors themselves are not immune from feelings of entitlement. The job itself probably builds narcissism. After all, several times a week, people take notes when we talk. This is what Washington is all about. Talking and people coming and taking notes, and then coming in and brown-nosing you of how wonderful the speech was. How entitlement corrodes relationships on and off the job. Entitlement causes real problems in relationships. First, entitlement leads to conflict. Duh. Everyone at some point does or says something nasty in a relationship, and how you respond to your partner determines whether the nastiness will be a passing squall or turn into a full-blown storm. Well, I've never said anything nasty. I mean, I may say the truth, ex particularly when he was doing something that was going to get us into trouble. But I mean, see, this nastiness has to stop. That there shouldn't be something. Oh yeah, everybody does it one time or another. Let's see. Being a little bit more accommodating can lead to much less conflict in relationships. Of course. I mean, of course you're going to have disagreements, whoever you live with or interact with, but you can remain respectful and saying it like it is rather than attacking them personally, which is what the feminists do. I mean, that is something that women are notorious for. We'll get into that, and we'll get back into the feminists later on again. That's the problem with entitlement. You're special, so how dare anyone not show you respect? You have to give respect to earn respect. One of the most intelligent people, and in fact the really intelligent people and the really wealthy people, and who come from old money and really have money, you never know it. And the really intelligent people, my father, never in my entire life did I see him disrespect anybody. And talking with the farmers next door, and very simple people or very, very intellectual people, never, and he would never put up with it. And whatever your race, color, creed, or whatever, he just wouldn't put up with it. Entitled people often confuse working hard with actually producing something good. Yes, well, we have all of the hot air in Washington that proves they're not producing anything. I always say, if I could harness all the hot air coming out of Washington, I could solve the energy crisis. Let's see. Entitled people are also unwilling to see the world through another person's eyes and find it difficult to empathize with another's misfortunes. Yeah, well, that's all over this town. I mean, all over this town. It's incredible. Everybody for themselves, just in my activism work with the domestic violence people, with the feminists, up on Capitol Hill. One of the problems, and, I know I'm going on, I guess I'm targeting ICD, but see, they get a double whammy on this thing. Because not only am I, going after them, same as I'm doing with the capacity building stuff over at the World Bank and all of their other stuff, as well as the UN, but I worked there for 4 years, and I worked at the IMF for 7 years. I've got 2 great cases to take to the courts to combat, really break up all of this couch casting and bullying and all of that. Because, my Lord, do I see that coming from a mile away. I've had all the backstabbing stuff. Again, I'll get into that with the feminists, the cat fights. I'm a professional. I have an MBA, PhD, and then some. I've seen it all my life. I can see those backstabbers. See, this is the problem with men, and I'll get into this. And I think in a couple of them, stiffed by Susan Faludi about the men. You got to grow a pair. So, when you are entitled, all your focus is directed towards your own experience, your own outcomes, and your own needs. Again, all over the place in this town. The entitled person considers his needs paramount and other needs minor. Let's see. The employee problem. Oh, okay, well, it's not uncommon for an employee to call my office before I arrive for the day to inform me, their employer, that they are too tired to go to work and they must get more sleep. They really see nothing wrong with staying home from work to sleep. One employee who did this 3 times in 1 week was fired, only to call a few months later wanting another job. Okay, I'll get on to this trickle down stuff. But on this, one of the problems is, I get it. I've had that within, employees and people that I've worked with. It's like people don't commit to something, and the volunteers are the worst because they think since I'm volunteering my time, I really don't have to show up. It's like, don't raise your hand if you don't want to do the work. But on the other side of that, and this is, gets into my case studies, particularly in the restaurants that I've been working, but it's applicable as well at ICD. I saw it, and throughout the IMF, and I've seen this, from back in the 80s when I worked in this town and every place I've ever worked. But, when you are in the middle of chaos and the managers are just, they don't care, the owners don't care, and everything's just a mess all over the place, you kind of go like, I'm done. Why should I stress myself out and worry? Particularly this was at Kalari. My favorite was the Valentine's dinner. I mean, all of us at the end of that were just like, we're done. I'm going to come in, I'm going to punch the clock, and I'm not going to stress myself out worrying about the service or the food or whatever for the clientele. I mean, you just get to the point where you're like, I don't know, this one welfare guy, he's like, look, I can't deal with the people out there in the workplaces. They're crazy, and they are. Excuse me, just 1 second. Okay. But they really are, just totally batty. So, there's there's always two sides to a story. And this is what gets into good management. I mean, I have managed, I mean, I was voted class president in my British boarding school, I guess, when I was 14, but that was kind of a joke. But, I've always been, I guess I managed the first management job I had when I was 15, and I was working at a stables during the summer. Because we'd work and then we'd be able to ride. God, I loved that horse that I had then. But, I was put in charge of the other, like, interns they were when I was up on Capitol Hill with Patsy Geyer, same thing. So, I've never been a CEO or anything like that, but from very young, I've always been pushed into leadership, because one thing, I think people respect me when they work for me, because they know I'm not going to ask them to do anything that, first, is not their job, and second, that I'm not willing to do myself, and and explain to them how to do it, and teach them with treat them with respect, and show them and teach them what they're supposed to do and what I expect of them. And if they don't toe the line, and I'll be like, sorry, you need to do your job. But not scream at them, not insult them. I mean, this is when I went through Succotash. Oh Lord, the training program with that. It was a very good training program. I was very impressed, because back in the 80s, you went to work at a restaurant and they just threw you on the floor, and it was swim or sink. So they had a training program, and for several weeks before they opened, and I think they spent like $150,000 or something on just training everybody. Within 3 months, nobody was there, because the place was wackos. This is the Clyde's group managers coming over. And I see why Clyde's has gone down so much since the 80s, and now it's just this corporate, restaurant, just like all the others. It used to be such a good place in Georgetown. But, the one manager, the general manager, one of the first things she said is, "I won't scream at you." And I'm sitting there going, well, thank you very much. Isn't that, like, normal? But I was to learn. I mean, this is a good manager. They don't scream at you. I mean, I may shout. Look at the open table Valentine's Day when I'm shouting at the waiter because everything's falling apart, and somebody's got to take charge and start giving orders. There's a difference between, screaming at somebody and insulting them to do their jobs, and another thing is when your ship is sinking and you go, you get over there, you get over there, you get over there, you do this, you do that. That's what a manager does. But when, in crisis, and the rest of the time, okay, everybody know their jobs, now do your jobs. I mean, this is one of the things. Later on, there was a video I saw with Christine Lagarde and Larry Summers. It's the Harvard Kennedy School. And she's like, oh, it's easier to get people moving in crisis mode. I'm like, yeah, but you want to try and prevent crisis mode instead of waiting till it comes and then say, okay, now is everybody in enough of a state of panic that you're going to actually move your rear ends? I don't think that's good management. So, the trickle down. I started with the trickle down in economics, and they're saying, that how it doesn't really work. Well, yeah, it does work. Here's the trickle down. Sorry, I've turned out my air conditioning. So the trickle down narcissism. It's not necessary for everyone, or even most people, to be narcissistic for materialism to increase in a society. Similar to the trends in vanity, narcissistic people begin materialistic trends that raise the standards for everyone else. They show off their possessions and make materialism cool through their charm and outgoing personalities. This we'll see with Lee Iacocca and charisma. That's not charisma. That's stupidity. This has led to a growing focus on material things among American youth. See, it does matter the example that the one generation sets for another. And this, in 1976, so, the whole narcissism epidemic started in the 80s with Nancy Reagan and Cornelia Guest and all the Foxcroft and all the preppies and the yuppies and all of that. In 1976, 16% of American high school seniors said that having a lot of money was extremely important. This ballooned to 26% in 2006. High school students name getting a good paying job as more important than being ethical and honorable. When the Pew Center for Research recently asked 18 to 25-year-olds about the most important goals of their generation, 81% named becoming rich. More than twice as many as named helping people who need help. 4 times more than named becoming a leader in the community, and 8 times as many as named becoming more spiritual. Becoming famous came in second at 51%. Well, this I'll see when we get into the Puritan movement and the early Puritan movement, which, with what this country was founded on, this is not it. And in fact, this, my father always said, I'll be getting into John Dickinson soon, that our family has been, fighting these, or combating, if you will, and challenging the hedonistic, predatory, Shakespearean Elizabethan era since Elizabeth I and the early Puritan movement. And that's what gave rise to those movements in England. In 1967, 45 of college freshmen said that becoming well off financially was important. By 2006, that number increased to 75%. Before we are accused of railing too much against the young, it's important to note that college students have favored being well off for a while now. The number who named financial comfort as an important goal has been over 70% since 1985. Right around the time Madonna crooned, "We are living in a material world, and I am a material girl." And the lifestyle of the rich and famous became a runaway TV hit. We've got to stop this. I want to become rich and famous and live like the rich and famous. Believe me, everybody thinks they grapple up to the ladder of success and they live in Shangri-La, El Dorado, and everything is perfect. Believe me, everything's not perfect. When I went to Foxcroft, I was like, oh God, thank you very much, Lord. Everybody's family is as wacko as mine. I'm normal. One of my friends, this is Luciana Herman, who's over at Stanford. I asked her one time, I said, how do we live in such dysfunctional families and societies and everything and stay relatively sane? And she said, because we do realize it's dysfunctional. And this is the thing. Nobody is, everybody in this town, like with Obama and see this later in my other presentations of Griftopia, I think it is, great America, make great America great again, bring back great America. America was never great to begin with. Thus, anyone born after about 1967 belongs to a generation raised in a highly materialistic culture. Even the baby boomers, the generation in college in the less materialistic 1960s, had a change of heart along the way. The hippie generation of the 1960s became the yuppie generation in the 80s, discovering the joys of BMWs and Cuisinarts. Yeah, they sold out. They all sold out. As that gets to the death of the liberal class. As David Brooks hilariously points out in Bobos in Paradise, Spending gobs of money is virtuous rather than sinful for boomers, as long as they spend it on high-end stuff such as expensive cookware, slate shower stalls, and professional-grade hiking equipment. Conspicuous consumption has reigned for a while now. In the late 90s, Americans spent more on shoes, jewelry, and watches, $80 billion, than on higher education, $65 billion. And incredibly, 93% of teenage girls say that shopping is their favorite activity. Well, you remember the Jeffrey Epstein, scandal, which is still breaking with Ghislaine Maxwell being arrested. These girls, they went over to give him massages, and this does get into, these are underage girls and everything like that. But again, a lot of the pedophile cases that I'm, seeing and everything in the courts, we're talking about 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5, 6, and actually this primes them later on, because most of these girls, if you look at, the Epstein cases and his victims, have stories like this. They were abused and raped. It's usually by a family member when they were younger, and this conditions them and socializes them to later service men. So it's so much more complicated than so much that everybody wants to present. I mean, definitely these girls were taken advantage of. But my thing, I keep on saying, if my daughter came home and said, I'm going to go over to this, old fart mansion over here, 50-year-old plus or whatever, and give him a massage, I'd say, over my dead body you are, and I'm going to go and find out, and the police officer, the chief of police is going to hear from me, and I want to know what's going on. See, this is where the ruling elite, the shame game, and particularly the moms, and the ones who are staying at home, who are watching what's going on. I mean, you don't want to, I was always watching these kids. I knew what everybody was doing. I knew, what the MO of each child was. Well, yeah, I believe that because I know this person's MO. And that's part of, being a socialite and watching over and overseeing the social order, your communities, whatever size it may be, whether it's lower class, middle class, or upper class, is knowing who's who. And what their character is, and what they're capable of, and not, oh no, I'm turning a blind eye. I mean, Anne Sinclair, she did that. Oh, I heard rumors. Well, if you hear rumors, my lord, if I hear rumors, I'm going to certainly find out what those rumors are. Now, you don't want to believe every single rumor, because believe me, yeah, women lie. Oh my God, the gossiping women and the manipulative ones, they're pathological liars. They'll come up with anything and everything, either to get you to do what they want, or to just create chaos. Some of them just actually really like creating chaos. That's where their adrenaline high comes from, believe it or not. But, this whole shopping, I gotta go to the mall and I gotta have all of the new, the newest electronic good or the newest shoes or the newest this. No. I mean, with my kids and with all kids, you should say, no, so we can't afford that. No. And that this is one of the things, you don't need 2 incomes if you're not spending. Obviously, money is important in many ways. The attraction of money is understandable in a time when the necessities of life cost so much more. Healthcare why do they cost so much more? Because we need more. Healthcare is staggeringly expensive. College tuition has far outpaced inflation. Yeah. Gas prices are up, and even small houses are now out of reach for the middle class in many areas of the country, even with the recent decline in prices. For many couples, it takes two incomes to achieve financial stability that many of their parents achieved on one salary. What is less apparent is why this money is needed to buy material goods whose purpose is to tell the world and even to prove to yourself that you are important or successful. See, this is this idea that we are what we possess or own or anything like that, whether it be a trophy wife, whether it be, nice, properly dressed children, or a nice house or vacations or any of that. Really, it's that's not who you are. That's what you have. Sure. I mean, when they took away all my money and, my house and my children and, basically here's a suitcase now out on the street, I was like, look, I know exactly what you're playing here. I knew from day one. I knew the game. And I told them, I said, I see exactly what you're doing and you're trying to shut me up. It's not going to work. Oh, sure, now it is, because I'm up against the whole judicial system, and all of you are trying to destroy me. Of course, there's not much I can do except document everything that you're doing. But I even told them, I was at a friend's house, and I said, look, because one of the lawyers, she said to me, this is Maria Jesus Guerrero. She said, you have to tiene que aprender ser una señora. You have to appear to be a lady. And I was like, just in my head, and I was like, oh, this lady, she doesn't know what she's getting into, and she doesn't know who she's dealing with. And I just sat there thinking, I am a señora. Not for the clothes I wear, not for the car I drive, or the house I live in. For who I am and what I've done with my life. And you people can take everything that you want from me. You can strip me down to nothing. But that will not change that I'm the señora here, and you people are just a bunch of scumbag, greedy witches and SOBs, the men. It is incredible what the lawyers are getting away with. She is my first. Oh, everybody lies in court. Everybody falsifies documents. It's expected. I'm like, this is going to be your defense once I finally get you all in court. I was like, you people are out of control. Just totally out of control. So anyway, that's, I'm going to wrap that up for that, in the narcissism today. And I'm going to play you. This is one of the people over in ICD. She was what's called senior personnel manager. And she came in after, I forget exactly how long I had been in ICD. And before that, they had some economists and stuff like that. So she was brought in, and she's supposed to be